everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Everything Horror Podcast. I am your host, Tessa Baker, and I am joined by my co-host,
Sheila.
And we are here today to talk to a very amazing woman. We have seen some of her work recently, and her films are very powerful with their message. So we would like to introduce to you Miss Melanie Light.
Hello. Hello. Welcome. Why am I saying welcome? But thanks for having me. So I'm looking forward to talking to you all, and thanks for watching my films as well.
Oh, of course, always a pleasure. I was actually thoroughly impressed to actually find another female director out there that is in horror genre. I know that a lot of female directors are starting to come out of the seams. They were once overlooked, but it seems like female directors are really upping the horror game. And we watched some of your horror shorts. We watched The Herd,
The
Escape, and Skin You're In.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, Melanie, very powerful messages, and you really found a way to shed light on the real horror.
I'm not sure how I did it, but it just happens.
Well, you're a natural, clearly. We couldn't believe it. Like it was just incredible how you portrayed your stories and your messages, and it was just so powerful. Sheila, what did you think of Melanie's short films that we watched?
Well, it's definitely a different type of horror where the horror was not more hack and slash, but more realistic in true life. And I just think for directors to finally bring that type of stuff out and make more people aware of what actually is going on, more than the regular horror, is amazing in my way.
So Melanie, I have to ask, what brought you to this path of horror? What inspired you?
Well, to direct, like I've worked in the film and TV industry for about 14 years, and I started off working in the art, and I still do, to earn money. I work in the art department, and I've production designed like really low budget horrors. First film I ever worked on was a horror film, and I just remember it was like 3:00 in the morning. Because we were doing like 3 weeks of night shoots, and I just thought, I just want to do this forever. It was a real trip. I mean, I didn't get into it until I was in my mid-20s. I studied art, and when I was at university, I wrote a dissertation on horror in everything, like everyday life, in poetry, in music, in film, in art, and it's all around us sort of thing. And I was interested in how the media and just, everything. I mean, this was a long time ago. This was like 2001 or something. So, and then I eventually managed to find a way to work in the film industry, fell into it, loved it. And then after a couple of years, I was just like, I worked on some really terrible low budget things, and I was just like, if these guys can direct this, I could direct as well. And then I had a friend that could get me camera equipment, and then we went and made my first short film, Switch, for like £400. It was like great fun. And then from then on, I still I've worked on throughout. I was in London, and I was still working on films, mostly horror films or sci-fis, because that's like what I'm into. And I've worked on some just like standard stuff as well, like cop dramas and things like that. But whenever there's blood or anything that needs going all over the place, I'll be the first one to like eagerly put on my latex gloves and throw it all over the floor. So I just, and then I started making my own films, and for me, directing and being able to tell stories, my own stuff, like you said about, it's nice that you picked up on how you felt that it was like a realistic horror. For me, that life is horrific. It's not all like, it's hard, and there's lots of things that many people go through and deal with on a daily basis just to survive every day. But obviously, I kind of like elaborate quite dramatically on some of the things that I do and the way I portray it, or the messages that I try and say, basically. So and then it's just good fun. Horror is just, I think and like the horror genre is and a lot of us do talk about this, and everyone said, it is a filmmaking tool and a form of art where being political is welcomed, whereas in a lot of other things, or a lot of people, like, it's not that welcoming. And I also, like, for me, I don't like to hold back, and I hate it when I quite often go to meetings or pitches or things like that, and my hands are literally tied to my sides, and I feel like people don't let me like do what I really want to do, because then the piece of work is going to be 1,000 times better. Like, producers let me do what I want to do, basically. Because I've always self-produced my own stuff, and then like you suddenly get to a point when you're working with producers and it drives you crazy.
I can imagine, and it's always best for you to be able to express yourself openly, even through your work and your vision, and really bring it to life the way that you envision it, and not have somebody else telling you how your vision should look.
Yeah, well, just like being held back, and because I think my work personally is like, has the strength that it has because I don't hold back, and I'm like, this is the message, and this is what I have to say, and I don't care who I upset, because for me the most important thing is that it's like having a voice for the voiceless, or like by getting that message out there. So that for me is, that's my main objective, is to get something out there and influence people and maybe change their minds. And you always make upset some people along the way, but then no matter what, like, positive or negative reactions is a reaction, so it's better than nothing.
Exactly. So, are there any female directors or female actresses out there that really inspired you, like were role models for you?
I think more so nowadays I have like people, like female directors that I kind of look up to, whereas when I first started making films, I wasn't aware of many female directors, and I was like, like I still love like Ridley Scott, like David Fincher's work, but now I'd say like I'm a massive fan of Jennifer Kent, like, who did the Babadook and the Nightingale that came out like last year, which somehow didn't get the press it deserved, and was probably one of the most powerful films. And a lot of people have never heard of it, never seen it, and it was only on like independent cinemas. And I left that, and I felt empty afterwards. Like someone had just kicked the shit out of me, and I felt empty. And it's an amazing, very political revenge film, and it's really powerful, like really powerful. So, and I like Lynn Ramsey. I think she's a great director. Like, just, that's kind of because their work is like more of the style that I'm into. But then I like Jane Champion as well. Like, I mean, the first season of Top of the Lake I thought was really good, and she works quite close. Like, you can see that she does spends a lot of time with her characters and like her actors, and developing them and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, there's it's nice that there's like so many more women that I can see. I'll go and see project like films like I will go if I am free and it's the opening box office for a female directed film. I will try and go and see it that weekend, because even though I might be like one of 3 people in the cinema, I know that I've still counted towards their money rate, you know, because that will mean that people have put more trust in women directing, which is crazy that I feel like I have to do that. Whereas if there's a male director, it doesn't fucking matter. Whereas if it's a female director, it's like, oh shit, we better all go and fucking watch that at the first weekend, because we need to make sure that they're, you know, their billion something is coming back. Whereas a guy, you know, it's like it doesn't really matter. They can fuck up and go, and then they just get hired again. Whereas it's like a woman can't fuck up.
Is there anything you would like to ask Melanie, Sheila?
Are there any more upcoming films, or maybe bigger than a short film, coming in the future?
Like future projects for you, Melanie?
I'm obviously I've just directed a short film before Christmas, which I got on board. I think it was October, and then we shot it in December because they had another director and they couldn't do it, so I got pulled in, and then I did that. So I'm just trying to get that finished, which I need to get finished ASAP, because I need to show it to people, because people are asking for fresh things. And then for the last year before that, I've been developing scripts that you spend so many time, like, you know, people have, as a director for hire. So I've been working on those, but a couple of them, because I'm a first-time filmmaker, it's kind of like I need something that is a lower budget. Never mind the fact that I've worked in the film industry, all manner of budgets. Like, for instance, I've just been an art director on something called Gangs of London that's coming out on HBO and Sky, and it was with director Gareth Evans. I got to work with the director Corinne Hardy, which is absolutely fantastic. Like, working on with these guys was really great. So but I'm just sort of developing stuff. Like, I've written the basis of a mini series, which is As the Herd Ends, this series begins, but we need to find funding for that. I've got some other stuff which I'm just trying to find writers. I work better, like, kind of with, I'll kind of dream up an idea and then I try and find a writer that will suit that, and then see if they collaborate with me, because I really enjoy the collaboration of writing, and I kind of work better in that way. So I'm just developing loads of features at the moment until somebody goes, you know what, we do think that person can make films, we will invest in them.
Have you thought of maybe trying something like Kickstarter or I think it's Indiegogo for
a feature
funding, to try to get funding?
I can't even get funding for a short film at the moment, and we're only on 750 quid. So I haven't got enough clout to be someone. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not interested in making a feature film that's like £50,000, but where you can't really pay anybody, and there's just the stuff that I work on, and the way that I work, I need more money than that. Like, The Herd was like quite an expensive short film, and we still didn't pay anybody. So it's like I'm not in, it's just pointless for me, anything like that. Like I said, short film, there's not enough money for post-production, and we can't even get £1,000, and that's been nearly a month now. And maybe we should try harder, but I'm not someone I haven't got a lot of clout, because a lot of, maybe if I spoke to my phone on internet a little bit more, but for me, that's not me.
Okay, it's perfectly understandable.
I think with Kickstarter, you don't really need to speak to your fans. I think if you like just show demos of your previous work and just make a free website of your art students or anybody underneath you, I think you'll be better off possibly getting some funds.
Like promoting
Yeah.
for yourself, if
I
that's the route you want to
really
take.
have any fans.
Well,
I don't really
shit,
have any
you've got
fans.
two right here. I mean,
But like that's for me personally, like the features that I want to make, I need at least like $1.5 to $2 million minimum. That's the films that I'm looking to make. I'm not someone to make a £50,000 feature film or $50,000.
you want to go all out, like
Steven
no holding back. Like,
Yeah, like that's who I mean, I've just come off like working on a TV show where it's £3.2 million an episode.
Wow.
So do you know what I mean? So like the short film we just made has probably cost about maybe with and that's not with paying people. Like it probably cost like maybe like £5,000. So that's for an under 10-minute short film. So that's just my way of making things, because I want to push. I want to be able to pay people like a decent wage, because if I pay people and I can get people on board that have got experience, whereas a lot of times when you haven't got the money and you can't pay people, you end up with people that don't have the experience, and that's where a lot of times things go wrong. Or like you may not have, like something I'm dealing with at the moment is our sound was awful. So we now have to have more work done in post sound because there wasn't money to pay for somebody who was a decent, an experienced sound recordist, and just little things like that, like team members. So, and because I work on, I can't be. It's just not me. Basically, the herd was like about £15,000.
wow.
Yeah, and no, like hardly anyone paid. So,
Well, for the amount that you put into that film, it came out like amazing. Like I showed that to Sheila for the first time last night, and she thought it was incredibly powerful, the message of it. And then we had watched
The Skin.
The Skin You're In, and that was another powerful one. And I like turned to Paul and I'm like, am I seeing her vision correctly? And I kind of like told him what I saw for your vision, and he goes, I think you're right. So for anybody who's listening, I apologize for maybe the tidbit of spoiler, but for The Skin You're In, you took animals, but you portrayed them in a human sense, as if they were human. Like, would you do this to a human, with what was done to animals? Am I correct?
Yeah, well, that's the herd as well, to be quite honest. So
Yeah, it was both of them, because it's like you took women in the herd and they were used for their breast milk, and their babies were used for stem cells, right?
Stem cell features, meaning like cream for old age
For youth cream and stuff like that, for anti-wrinkles and stuff like that. So it was pretty much like taking like a woman and using her like she's like a cow or something, using her for what she produces.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also I thought of uh, what was it? Kidnapping?
Oh, the escape one?
No,
No,
the
what?
that one, the sex offenders
Oh, you
taking,
mean like sex
yeah,
trafficking?
sex trafficking
Yeah.
away as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a lot of layers to the herd because, for instance, you actually do have like there is a similarity between like the way that meat is like flesh, like meat is sold and is, you know, like there might be a billboard that has like a leg of chicken and it's sexualized. And then we look at like how, or like women's breasts, chicken legs. Are you a thigh man? Are you a breast man? And like there's a lot of, they're very linked together. The way, and also within the meat industry, all the females, like female pigs, female cows, female chickens, like all the females are basically kind of enslaved. They're basically enslaved so that they can reproduce, so that the industry can keep going. And they're just used. They're just like a baby making machine. And when they're not, and obviously in the dairy industry, you know, and all these animals are artificially inseminated, so they're raped, so that we can just mass produce. And then males are like male chicks are killed instantly because they can't produce eggs. So there's this constant cycle where females are abused. And then if you look at how women are abused, and the way that women are treated as just like baby making machines, like the way that women are seen, and like, you know, there is various religions, and just, you know, what are women there for? Like, we're not always allowed to have ownership of our own bodies. So, and so there's a lot that's going on, there's a lot that's interlinked basically. So it's like, that's why we call it like the vegan feminist film, because veganism and feminism go like very much hand in hand. So if it's like, if you're against like the way that women are treated, and sexualized and treated as products, and the way that they're objectified, we also have that with females in the meat and dairy industry. So they kind of go hand in hand together. So that's like something that's really was really important for me to have within this film, which I think, because a lot of people sometimes, they, you know, unless they know a bit about the dairy industry, they'll watch it and then they won't realize until the end, which is why I put the credits at the end, because I wanted it to be like, there you go, you've just seen all of this happen to these women, here it is, just in case you hadn't like twigged, I'm smashing it in your face right now so that you do know what the hell I'm going on about, and I don't care how horrible this is right now. So we like, we film screened, like, even though I made it years ago, it was at like a local film festival, film night, and like there was like mothers and children in the audience, and I was like, I said to the person, my friend that put it on, I was like, look, I think you should show one of my different films. There's families there. This isn't, you know, I'm experienced with sitting and watching an audience watching this film. I was like, it gets loud, it gets screamy, it's quite bad. I don't think this is family friendly. And they were like, well, I've made a horror film. And I was like, yeah, but yours is a bit, this is different. And then in the end, like, a mum and her kids had to leave. Like, I told you so. So, which is good. We always get good reactions. Like, one festival woman who was vegetarian, it kind of suddenly dawned on her, and then she sort of left the auditorium in tears. So it's always a win when you do that, isn't it? And if you make a horror film.
Well, at least you got it. At least you get a reaction either way.
Yeah.
That's the thing with, like, I see behind Melly, like, she wants to show that women do have power in one way or another inside her films and outside her films. Like, and, you know, that this is like a perfect example of, like, you know, her personality of, you know, women should have more power than only men do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
That is definitely my personality. Like, I think it's really important to have your personality coming through your films. And I mean, you look at some of the films that we all love, and you can kind of see personalities coming out through it, you know. So it's like when you look at previous works of directors, you can start seeing. I mean, it's not like I do it on purpose. It's just what comes out of my brain and the way I do things. So, like the short that I got on board with, someone else had written the script, and then I sort of worked with them on the script. The one that we're just finishing off now, there's huge similarities to the way that I did stuff with the herd, because it's a political message. So for me, if it's political or it's got messages, I'm like, I throw myself at it, because I'm, you know, on social media, I'm very vocal about stuff. I don't hold back. I will say things. I will say my opinion. I will go on demos. I will go do as much as I can without crossing the line. Like, because I can't get in trouble with some stuff because I need to get into America. So, you know, but I've always been, that's me as a person. And I've noticed like that sometimes can be a hindrance as a filmmaker, as a female filmmaker, because people very much, like, I've noticed they want to control you. They're like, they don't want you to be opinionated. They want you to be a director that can like sit and look pretty basically and do what they're told, and not be opinionated, because they, you know, you're the face of their show or you know, their product basically. So if you're like out there saying this and that, then it's not good. But if you're a man and you're out there saying this and that, you're like a strong, knowledgeable man who's like fighting for everybody. But if you're a woman, you're like a hot potato and you're a pain in the ass. So frustrating.
Incredibly so, that we're viewed as pain in the asses when we emotionally and verbally and passionately express ourselves. We're a pain in the ass. But yet when men do it, not to start a fire here, but yet when men do it, they're like, oh, you know, it's allowed, we're entitled, blah 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 blah. But when a woman does it, it's like, oh, you're a pain in the ass.
Yep. Yep. I mean, you know what? Like, I'm getting older now, and I'm getting very frustrated. And also, it's like, and you know, I was talking to a friend about it the other day. And you get older, and you know, you start remembering things that have happened to you as a person, and you know, it's like, I live in a great city, so it's very community led, very liberal and stuff like that. So it's like, it's super cool, and I spend a lot of time with people that are political activists, maybe in you know, like various different groups. So I'm very aware of things that's going on. So I very much I will call people out on stuff on set. I'll call people out, you know, if they say something or do something they shouldn't be doing, because you know, so it's just, yeah, it's, you get older and you're like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't care.
I couldn't agree with you more, honestly. I've noticed that about myself personally, like over the years. Like I went from having like a filter to being patient with people to like watching what I say to like nowadays it's like I don't give a fuck what I say anymore. If I hurt somebody's feelings, then oh well.
Welcome.
Yeah, but you know,
I guess my other half rubbed off on me. So
but that's the thing. I think we've spent so long like being told that we have to behave in this certain way, especially as women. Then we do, you know, to start doing it, and then we go through these life experiences, and like, you know, I can very much like look back on, say, a relationship that I've been in, and I've been like, that person wouldn't let me do that. I wasn't like, that wasn't me, you know, like I wasn't me in that relationship. And then it's like, I'm being me again now, which is a bit gobby at times, but I still care about people. So, you know, it's like, I can open my mouth about stuff, but I know that it's like, because I care about what like other people and animals, and I want to change the world for the better. Like, I've been told that, you know, you need to stop trying to save the world, you need to focus on your career. But it's really, I find it really hard at times, because there's so much shit and so much bad stuff going on. It's like, you know, and I use a lot of that is like from what I see, and, you know, like anti-capitalism and stuff like that has always affected my work. So I'll probably make something now and everyone will be like, oh, it's because you watched Parasite. It's like, no, I've been doing this before I saw that film.
No,
So
you're just putting your feminine power to work. Hats
well,
off.
you know, someone's got to do it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, I have a question. The short film,
The skin you're in.
Skin You're In. Did you personally add the Chinese translations on the bottom of it? Like there was a.
I think that was somebody else sharing her work, and they were from another country.
Oh, okay. No,
so it wasn't. I don't think it was Melanie personally. I think it was like another thing.
Because like, you know, the whole China thing and how they treat their animals and things like that. That's why I thought maybe, you know, she personally kind of tried to point that out. I don't know.
No. If that was on like just some of the footage, it's because that was on the footage anyway. I thought I got rid of that, or you. What did you watch it on? My website, or was it on something else?
It was on YouTube.
And to be honest, like, I wouldn't put anything like that and try and single out one country, and just say that their country's really bad for what they do, because, like, the consumer is on a global scale, and I wouldn't just say that Chinese people go around beating up, you know, doing this to animals. They're really bad. Because, like, this is almost like a form of racism, because we're the people that buy the products made with fur. And I got into something with someone with a Canada Goose jacket on recently, because I politely brought up the fact that they had real fur on their coat, and they got very defensive and immediately was like, got microaggressive towards me and said, I know how the fur got on my coat. And I said, well, does that not bother you? And he was like, no, not really. And then started to just come out with all this stuff, trying to like, and then he was like, well, you know, and I said, look, I've seen videos of it. He's like, what, on YouTube? And I was like, well, everything's on YouTube. But, so, you know, like, fur is like a global problem, basically. And for me, the film is about how a lot of fur is basically a fashion accessory. It's not something that, you know, whereas you can see like meat is something and dairy is something that we've grown up with, and we've been told that that's something that we need to have in our lives to survive. But now that, like, you know, we've got the internet and we've got knowledge and we can share knowledge, people are starting to understand and realize that you don't need it, and it's actually bad for you, and it's bad for the environment. And it's, you know, for me, I care about most beforehand, like the animals and the cruelty of the animals, but everyone's got their own ways of understanding and going on journeys when they might change what they're doing. But for me, like, fur is literally just a fashion accessory. You don't need that. You don't need to be cruel to animals just for something that makes you look rich, or that is on, you know, like a jacket that is basically that everyone else wears, and you think that you've got to buy the most expensive jacket just because, you know, of fashion and labels and that kind of thing, basically. So it's just, that's what it drives me mad the most, because you really don't need it. Sorry, I went off on one then.
No, you're perfectly fine. I would rather you be open and be yourself and openly express your opinion about the world and what's wrong with it and what makes you tick, because I wouldn't ask you to be any other way. Just like when you were like dropping like your F-bombs and stuff like that before, I was over here cracking a smile, and I was like, yep, you do that. That's you, because I do the same fucking thing.
Well, Tessa technically right now is trying to hold her F-bombs back.
But that's only because I'm pregnant with my daughter, and she can she's to the point where her hearing's developed. So I don't know. I guess I'm trying to cut back on my swearing before she's born.
I don't think, it's just, I've got a friend, she's got 3 kids and they're teenagers and she swears in front of them. And like, I think it's just like my mum my mum doesn't swear and I try not to swear in front of my mum. But it's funny. It depends what scenario you're in, don't you? So, but I know that like a horror podcast, most people listening to that, like you can swear as much as possible.
Yeah, we definitely do not have a filter.
Nope.
Exactly. It just comes out for like when I get really passionate about stuff, I will just start swearing as well. So.
Oh gosh, that's the same way. So allow me to ask you, what was it I was going to ask?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any difference when filming in the UK and in the US? Is there any difference, do you think? Things in the UK?
Not really. You still, as a filmmaker, doesn't matter what country you're in, you still come up across the same problems constantly. There is different styles. I haven't worked on like union shows. We don't really have a union in the UK. I think if some union people came over and worked on some of our shows that were the equivalent of union shows, they'd probably have a meltdown at us. Because we just like are quite slapdash. We're good and we know what we're doing, but I think we're kind of quite different. But no matter what, doesn't matter where you are, you will still just have the same problems. You'll have scheduling problems. You'll have like actor availability problems, things going wrong at short notice. Just you name it, like something break it, like same shit, different country. So.
So pretty much it's like the old saying, same shit, different day.
Yeah, pretty much that. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I haven't done big things, but I've only done like indie stuff and made my own stuff. So, yeah, same.
You're still making your mark.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you ever, if someone wanted you to direct a video game, like a horror video game, would you?
Oh, I don't know how. I don't really know anything. I don't play video games, so I wouldn't know really where to start with that. I did years ago write a VR headset that was like to do with gun crime in America, but it never happened. And if I had, that would have been dark as fuck. Because it was with the intention of showing to people so they would I'm not going to, this is horrific, I don't want to do it. But it just never happened. But yeah, I don't really play video games. If someone else is playing them, I don't mind watching it, but because I'm like an old lady who goes, oh my God, the graphics are so good these days. But yeah, it's just not me. That's not my sort of thing. So, yeah.
So, is there any advice that you would give to anyone who's starting out when it comes to writing and directing their own work?
I mean, this is what we all say, but you just got to do it and try your best to surround yourself with other people that have the drive that you have to make that project. It can be hard because no matter at the end of the day, like the love for it, like your love is going to be the biggest love and determination to get that thing made. And it can be quite hard and you'll be like, why are they not into this like I am? Or, and there's never enough money no matter what you do. And it can be quite frustrating. It's really fucking hard, but you just got to stick with it. Like I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm in so deep now. Like I'm up to my neck in it. Like all I can do is try and kick down the door to get through the door. Like I've been doing short films for 10 years. I've worked on like all different shows, like massive to low budget, like feature films, TV shows. Like, I've been on set with some really great directors. Like, you know, like if I walked onto a set and I was directing something and we had 4 cameras and we had all this stuff, like I wouldn't, you know, in stunts and stuff, I'd be excited. But like that to me is like a normal day at work when I go and do my art directing. So I'm kind of used to quite big things. But then, so you just gotta keep pushing forwards, and like you just gotta keep doing it. And like like for instance, I don't have a mentor. I get quite frustrated because I don't have. So I will watch like YouTube videos with Ava DuVernay because I think she's amazing influence. What she's doing with like Array now, and bringing up like women directors, black directors, women of color, people of color, like just getting them in their foot in the door. And but you know, she pushes very much for like that's not just as directors, that's also and actors. It's also with like production designers, HOD, you know, all the HODs, like cinematographers, like, you know, your PAs on set. Like, I mean, I just did it with a short. We just did it with a short I just made. Like, bring people with you, and you will find as you go along the way people that you can rely on, and you'll want to be with them again. So I didn't go to film school. I went to art school, and everything I've learned is from being on set. So if you can get on a film set, even as a runner, PA, like try and do it just so you can watch people or shadow people, or even on short films. Like, but you just like, you know, you just gotta just do it. It's hard because sometimes your confidence isn't always there, but and things go wrong all the time, and you think, why am I doing this? But you just gotta keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because you know once you've made the first one, and if you got that buzz out of it, then you'll make another one, and then just keep going, basically.
So, what does Women in Horror Month mean to you, Melanie?
Well, I've been involved with it since the very, very beginning. The first short film I ever made, Switch, played in Women in Horror Month event that was in Birmingham, put on by a woman called Nia, who now is one of the organisers of the Abattoir Horror Festival in North Wales. And my short played there. And I went up to that, and just since then, so I've always followed that. And there used to be the Chainsaw Mafia, and something else, and now that's kind of morphed into the Etheria Festival. And I've just always followed Women in Horror Month, and I've always tried. I did the calendar one year. I used to put on events in London so that women filmmakers or creatives or academics, we all met up in a bar a couple of times. And then since I've been in Bristol, which is in the southwest of the UK, I've put on a film night. So, because obviously I work in horror films, and especially in the UK, there's a lot of women that are making short films. Prano Bailey Bond is a great short filmmaker. She's just made her first feature. In Ireland, you've got Ashleen Clark, who did The Devil's Doorway, which is a brilliant feature film. I think she's probably lining up to do her second feature. Katie Bonham is like just done something for the BBC, and she does some horror-y stuff, films. Kate Shenton writes horror stuff. So there was a group of us, and we're all sort of, you know, got a friend called Elizabeth who's just crowdfunding for her first short film, like a feminist horror. So for me, it's like, it's a great celebration, but I do it as a fundraiser, and it's just nice to celebrate that there is other like great female horror directors, because it is a very masculine kind of genre. And I think in North America, like, you know, out of LA, and like you got Gigi Sol Guerrero, who's just directing the new Eli Roth film, who's a brilliant director, and she did Culture Shock for Hulu. And there is group of directors, and I think in North America it's a lot easier because that's where the money is and there's a lot more support for horror, whereas in the UK there's like no money for, there's just been an article out online through Variety, there's no money for indie film, and unless you're with the BFI or Creative England or the BBC, Channel 4, blah blah blah, like these certain things, or your film played at certain festivals, you'll get picked up as a director. But there's really low budget stuff being made, which is just straight to video and then it gets lost. But powerful, strong films and voices aren't being elevated in the UK. So a lot of, like Corin Hardy, Gareth Evans doing his own thing, Johannes Roberts, Adam Mason, like a lot of them have gone over to the US to direct films. And there's a very good reason for that, because there's nothing in the UK. So I love it. Is like I try and sort of, there's a few of us here, and something that just it drives me insane is every time it's Women in Horror Month, it's all about all these directors, but there's some really solid directors in the UK and they always get left behind. So, but once we've made everyone's made a feature, even like you can make a feature and you still get forgotten about. It's very frustrating.
So I have a question. You mentioned Hulu. Would Hulu ever pick you up as a director to do a Hulu special type of film or even a movie?
Well, I had a friend that worked for them, and I asked if they would send my work to them, and they responded saying because I didn't live in the US, then they wouldn't employ me. And then I put a shout out on Twitter recently about it, and then Chelsea Stardust sent me a DM and then said that Hulu has all their directors and their Amazon thing has all their directors as well. So, and the one where I asked someone to send my work was like a year ago. So it's kind of, so that's something that I find very frustrating. Is like, is that true? I actually have Canadian citizenship as well, so I'm looking at moving to Canada because I think maybe I might have more chances as a director there. Because if I do genre and I do horror, all the money for it to make those films is in America, but obviously I don't have a green card and I can't work in America. So I am also going to the US for meetings to try and find funding and for the projects that I'm attached to, because there's money in the US and there's nothing for the UK. There's no support. Our biggest horror festival only takes certain premieres, so they won't play your short film. Instead of elevating like new British horror film directors, not just women, a lot of people don't get that name of that festival on their, with them, and then people are like, oh, you didn't play at the festival, then you can't be that good. So we don't even get elevated for our own fucking country. So it's really hard if you're into horror in the UK.
It's like they don't appreciate you enough to give you the exposure that you deserve, which has got to be really fucking frustrating.
Well, it's like a slap in the face. It's like, whereas people from America or whatever, their films, but like everyone's like kissing their asses, and it's just like, hang on a second, you need to be supporting your own homegrown talent. You're not even interested in us. It's like, well, we only want this type of film and blah blah blah, and it's like, but you should be supporting people that, where, it's like charity starts at home sometimes. But there's no money for like horror. Like so many like really good short film horror directors I know really struggling to move into features, because unless you have those certain big companies that everyone's heard of behind you, like it's so hard. That's why you have to go to the US for money for horror.
How about Netflix?
Netflix is, I mean, you have to know someone to get in with Netflix. Netflix works if you've got something that is, obviously if it's a low budget thing. So there is a possibility through Netflix, but it wouldn't be straight to Netflix. You need to be in with a company that works with Netflix, which are usually in America.
Wow, it's like they really want to give UK the short end of the stick, no matter how hard you try.
Even though there's so many talented directors in the UK, more than the US.
There's a lot of talented directors in UK getting overlooked.
That's basically the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very, very frustrating for a lot of people. But you just got to keep pushing, and that's why I've been going over. I've got mates in LA. I've been going over there for about 10 years now. So I'm going back over in a couple of weeks to go and have some more meetings with people, and literally just go and stand in someone's office until they talk to me, because I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I have conversations with people, and they'd be like, we really love your work. Have you got an agent? I'm like, no. And then I phoned up an agency last week, a couple of it, and I'm like, how do you get an agent? And they said, well, if your film plays at, a certain festival that we've been to, then we might approach you. But if you've made a really harsh as fuck horror film, you're not going to get into I didn't get into Rain Dance. I didn't get into Sundance. I didn't get into South by Southwest. I didn't get into the London Film Festival. So if you don't get into those established film festivals, then people don't see your work. It's so bullshit.
I can see that, and I feel terrible that it's like that, because it shouldn't be one-sided.
Yeah, because you work so hard, you pretty much put your blood, sweat, and tears into what you make, and you get overlooked. It's like you have to drill it into people's heads. Like, look, this shit is real. This is the real horror of the world, and you're overlooking it.
It's not all hack and slash. Oh, fake blood come out of me. I'm dead.
Yeah, it's something that just drives me crazy. But yeah, there's no money for just independent film in general. And 10 years ago, there was films being made for $500,000. I've worked on them. I've worked on loads of them, but there's just not really. It's just our industry is it's really busy in the technical department. There's if you work behind the camera, you can literally be busy all the time because there's so much TV being made here. Netflix have brought out Shepperton Studios, Disney have Pinewood Studios, and there are two big film studios in the UK. And then people start coming to Bristol, they start coming to Wales. There's one open in Birmingham, there's one in Manchester, blah blah blah. So there's loads of, because there's so much content these days with channels and TV. And then all the massive, all the Marvel films, Wonder Woman was made over here. I think Batman might be happening. So we make all the massive movies, but that's it. So it's busy within the industry, but if you're a producer, director, writer, and if you're a really good writer, you'll get snapped up by TV straight away anyway. So, but if you're an independent filmmaker, it's really, really hard, really hard. Finding financing. That's why you have to go to the US to try and get financing.
Is there anything you would recommend us to watch, any films or books or anything that you would recommend for us to look into that you think that we would like?
I don't know. Films, I highly suggest The Nightingale. I don't know where that is now, if in the process of coming out. That's really powerful. Men, Women and Chainsaws. Let me think. I'm looking at my books now. I was also a big fan of The Handmaid's Tale. There's a comic called Bitch Planet. What else? And and just sort of just do a search for short films and filmmakers out of the UK and Ireland, basically.
Is there anything that you would like to ask us, Melanie?
No, I don't think so. I told you I can talk for a long time, so but once you get me going, that's it. And I've there's certain subjects that really just tick me off, basically. So, but yeah, the lack of financing with the UK in horror is it's quite sad, really. But considering we were we used to be the Hammer horror people and stuff like that, so we don't have any of that anymore. It's just really sad. But no, I think I'm good.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Just that just because a trailer might look shit online, it doesn't mean that the film's going to be shit. And I suggest go and watch films that have been directed by women that especially in opening weekends, if you have watched something, don't go on there and this is just in general, attacking filmmakers and personally telling them that you think their work is shit or something like that. It's that makes you feel awful. I think if you can't say something nice, just don't say something at all. Because people put their so much of their lives into making films, and they can be quite personal as well. So I think everyone's just got to try and support each other, really. And stuff like Women in Horror is really great because we can show each other's films, and we can I put on a film night that's a fundraiser, so and it was a great success, and people asked me when I was doing another one, which was really cool, and everyone was smiling at the end. And I think trying to support each other, and if you work with someone and that might someone that might help them or might get their foot in the door, help each other. Don't just be because a lot of people are so worried that someone's going to steal their job, or there's a lot of hidden jealousy, and people are just very much oh, I don't want to help them because they might be better than me or something like that. And it's just there's so many fucking films being made out there and TV shows all the time. Honestly, don't worry about it.
Well, I think that it's been a pleasure having you on, Melanie. I would love to talk to you again in the future when you have another project or anything else you'd like to talk about, even horror in general. I would love to talk with you again, if you would like.
Yeah, I'm up for that. That's cool. Yeah, when I can finally make myself not stop making short films and move up.
Hey, listen, and we'll try to support your stuff as much as we can. We'll tell the words around about your short films.
Yeah, we'll put your name out there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. So yeah, thanks for talking to me and let me pour my heart out.
Oh, you are so welcome. You are welcome to do that anytime, and it has been an absolute pleasure, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I was your host, Tessa Baker, and I was joined by my co-host Sheila, and our guest Melanie here. And if you like what you heard, please check Melanie Light out. She just search her. She's incredible. She's done her short films that we've mentioned in this episode, and many more. She's even on IMDb. Look her up there.
Well, we'll also have all her links down below on the YouTube page of Everything Horror Podcast, and we will definitely throw out the word for Melanie Light about all her short horror films that she made.
Yeah, because she deserves to be seen and heard.
Yes.
So, with that being said, boys and ghouls, stay scary.